Hey guys, it's Oli. So today I'm going to show you a full flight from cold and dark startup procedure onto the landing. So we go to our world map and let's pick something that's not too far apart. Maybe go for Paris to Frankfurt. So we take Charles de Gaulle Airport around here. Set this as our departure. If you start from the runway or from the airport as such, it will start with the engines and electronics and everything already running. So we set our gate as a starting point. So we spawn without running engines, and then we will fly to Frankfurt. And yeah, maybe we can go to this ramp here. What we have to do is we are not flying by visual flight rules like we are a little Cessna. We are flying by instrument flight rules, and we want to go above 10,000 feet, so we go for high altitude, and you will see it's already setting up some waypoints. You could play around with your arrivals and departures and approaches, but we can just leave it as it is. And I'm playing without any AI or multiplayer traffic, since the air traffic control will be talking non-stop otherwise. I'm playing with a 4090 RTX, so I'm on everything on ultra settings. I like it warm in here. And my joystick is from Logitech Extreme 3D Pro. It's a cheap $50–60 joystick from Amazon. It's not the best, but it's okay to getting started and has all the functions you need. And I'm also using, as you can see, a Headtracker, so I can move my head without using VR goggles. But I will turn this off for a while, so it's not shaking that much, and you can see everything is off in this bitch. So, nothing on, and the first thing we will do is go to our upper panel and open up the battery circuits.
De Gaulle ground RYNAR
and you will see the radius will come to life.
IFR to Frankfurt, ready to copy.
Let's go for some brightness.
Is cleared to Frankfurt Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 26 right, climb and maintain 7,000 feet. Departure frequency is 125.7 squawk 1056.
Ryanair 1123 cleared to Frankfurt Airport is filed. Takeoff runway 26 right, climb and maintain 7,000 feet. Departure on 125.7 squawk 1056.
Ryanair 1123 read back.
Okay,
correct.
so we are already receiving a lot of information there,
when ready to taxi.
and can start by using them. So we are cleared for a takeoff from runway 26R. So this is the thing we want our auto pilot to know. So we can go to our flight plan, since we set up a route and all the waypoints by going to IFR flight route. We have already our destination and our departure and all the waypoints in between. We don't have to manually type it in, since I don't like the MCDU. I'm still getting used to using it, and it's not that easy, but so we don't have to type in every waypoint and just go with our takeoff runway 26R. We are telling the plane we are going, so flight plan, then your go to from. You can see LFPG, that's our Paris airport. And we click there, then we click departure. And now we can search for our departure 26 right. 26 right. Opposite than you would think. You're not scrolling down by using the down arrow, you're using the up arrow. So 26 left is coming up, we need 26 right. Perfect. And we can go straight to our next waypoint if we go by none, so nothing in here. Or we could choose some other routes and maneuvers we could fly. You could have a look at your navigation display here. You could change the range a little bit, make it smaller or bigger. Or you could simply go by your built-in tool, the VFR map. So wait a second, and there we see it. And if we now go for maybe the first one, just click it, and you will see we have a different one. Have a look for, this looks not so nice. Let's go for the first one. And you can see it's in yellow text above here. And we go to insert. And now we have set up our departure, LFPG 26 right. Okay. Next thing we got told is climb and maintain to 7,000 feet. So we go to our altitude knob. You can change between hundreds and thousands, and we go for 7,000 feet. Press and hold left mouse key, and then go to engage select altitude mode. Press the middle click on your mouse, should be the mouse wheel. And you can check if it took it in your PFD, primarily flight display, and you see in blue text it says here 7,000 feet. Another thing, departure on 125.7 and squawk code 1056. I've set in the settings that I don't need to type in all the radio frequencies by myself. I will let the fictional co-pilot do this, so I don't have to always do it. But if you want to do it, you can do it here. Type in your standby radio frequency, and when you want to use it, then go to frequency swap and use it. Your transponder code or squawk code you would type in here. This is used for the air traffic controllers and is your identifying number, and also by TCAS system, so you don't collide with other other planes in the air. And that's about it we need by now. We can then already start by requesting taxi IFR in a second and rolling to our runway. But before that, we need to start up the other systems. So we have, we will do beacon lights on. Beacon lights are on top, one light, and on the ground. There you can see it, the ground one light. And this means the plane is getting active or is active, and ground staff should be cautious and maybe not stand in front of the engines. And we will turn on the nav and logo lights. That's the green on the right wing, red on the left wing, and the logo lights are those two. They are lighting to our nice Ryanair logo, so everybody knows, just for marketing purposes, to what airline this plane is belonging. Okay, everything on. We can start with the APU master switch and then the APU starter. This is the little engine in the airsole or at the back of the airplane auxiliary power unit. This is providing or generating electricity and compressed air, and we will use this if we don't have ground power or if we have empty batteries, so we can generate electricity, and the compressed air will be pushed into the engines to start them in a second. So this one is spooling up, and when it's running we can hear the air conditioning is starting to work. And the next thing we can do is open up our fuel pumps, and after we've done this we can open the APU bleed. Bleed air means this is pushing now the compressed air towards our left and right engine, so we're turning this on. And now we have our engines, main engines here. You can see 3 modes. You can hear the air conditioning coming to life with the APU. Crank mode is no fuel injection and no ignition. This is only for maintenance purposes or some weird maneuvers, maybe if you are flooded your engines. Norm mode is only fuel injection, or like kerosene is getting into the turbines, and but no ignition, because the engine is already running and igniting from the flames inside. And ignition start is fuel flow and ignition. This is what you use to start up the engines, and you would use them if you're flying in really damp, wet conditions or really cold conditions with heavy snow, and turning to normal mode after you've reached your cruise altitude or reached a certain level of altitude. So we will start with engine 1, and we can go to our ECAM display. We can see there are already N1 is already spooling a little bit because of our compressed air, and now engine 1 is starting to rise, spinning. N1 is our low pressure compressors, the rotor blades, turbine plates in front, and N2 are the smaller high pressure compressor at the back or middle of the engine, where kerosene is being fueled in, injected in, where combustion is happening, the burning is happening. And we can watch our exhaust gas temperature rise. On the left engine, fuel flow is okay. We will wait for like 19 to 20 N1 on the left side, and then we can start our second engine. And in a few seconds we will hear the hydraulics come to life. There it is. Yeah, that's what waking up sounds like. A little bit of moaning. And now our engine number 2 will spool up and come to life. You could do this after being pushed back. I've done this now just to have time to show you everything. We will now continue with taxiing. So we want taxi clearance.
De Gaulle ground RYNAR 112 tree with Quebec ready to taxi IFR.
Ryanair 112 tree taxi to and hold short of runway 26 right using taxiway Tango Lima 6 Romeo Papa 10 Romeo Romeo 1. Contact tower on 119.25 when ready.
Taxiing hold short runway 26 right via taxiway Tango Lima 6 Romeo Papa 10 Romeo Romeo 1 RYNAR 112 tree.
Okay, we have our taxi clearance, so we can now ask the ground staff for a pushback.
De Gaulle ground
For this we have
RYNAR
to open up
112 tree
our parking
requesting
brake.
pushback.
And we do not activate taxi lights because this will just be too bright for them, because they are just here. And if we turn on the taxi lights, which is here, they will get distracted too much and it's too bright for them. And we need to go to the left side, so we will request pushback to the right. Always like watching from here onto your plan,
to steer
so
the aircraft to the right.
Ryanair 112 tree, your request has been transmitted to the operator.
And we are being pushed back. Yeah, they shouldn't do this in real life. And we can.
De Gaulle ground
That's
RYNAR
enough, we can turn.
112 tree requesting the end of pushback.
Ryanair 112 tree, request to end pushback received.
Okay. Go back to clearance. And we have clearance for our taxiing. We can then turn off the APU bleed and APU starter and APU master. We can then turn on our taxi lights. Those are right here, and they are fixed and just pointing straight forward. And we can turn on our runway turn light. They are a little bit lower here, and they are fixed to our steering column, and they will point in the direction where our front nose wheel is looking at or pointing to. Strobe lights you turn on runway. We have beacon lights, we have nav and logo lights, taxi light, and one-way turn light. Perfect. Okay, so then parking brake is off. can start taxiing towards our assigned runway, which is still, I think, 26R. Yeah, 26R. Perfect. Okay. So we're stopping right
DeGaulle
here.
Tower RYNAIR 112 tree ready for IFR departure runway 26 right.
Ryanair 112 tree altimeter 29er.9er 2 wind 269er at 12. Cleared for takeoff runway 26 right.
Okay. We have our
Cleared for takeoff runway
clearance for
26
takeoff
right,
from the
Ryanair
runway we
112
were assigned
tree.
earlier. We can then extend our landing lights. They are this ones. We can turn our taxi light to takeoff. We can turn on our strobe lights. Those are the white lights at the wingtips right here. And then we are assigned 7,000 feet. We've set this up. We made sure it's set up right here. We're going for the performance page. So it always displays the current phase. So it tells us we are going to take off at VR. So this is the speed we are rotating, so we're initiating the rotation, so pulling up the nose of the plane. After V1, so 146 knots, we can not any longer abort our takeoff. So we have to take off. It's safer to take off and then maybe go around and land again if we notice something strange. But there should be nothing here. So we are aiming for around 150 knots. We don't have any flap setting here, but we can go for flaps on 1. We can arm our speed brakes, so the board computer can use this when we let off the throttle and have auto brake set to max. It will automatically deploy the speed brakes, extend the flaps, edit the speed brakes, and slow down the plane, and we have nothing to worry about. So we go for auto brake on maximum. We have set our engine to norm mode. We will take off and then fly to our next waypoints. Those are the waypoints. You can have a look at them if you go to your navigation display. Change the scale by using this button. So here we can see where we are going to fly to. And as soon as we take off, we will retract the landing gear. This is the first thing we will do. Then we will make flaps 0. We will bring in the flaps, and then we will go for autopilot 1 and auto throttle, and the plane will navigate us via radar and GPS towards the next waypoint, which you can see on this map or in here on your MCDU, multi-purpose and control display unit, I think is what it stands for. We can turn on our flight director, so we see where the autopilot is aiming, and yeah, can have a look at airports if we need to land anywhere else, but not on this one. Nothing will happen, everything will be fine, but just if you try to simulate it like in more real life setting. Okay, so we are opening the parking brake, rolling on toward the runway, and the last thing, we are not using full power, not just pushing the throttle towards the front. We are going one setting below that, which is flex detent. So coming to a standstill again. We're using the flex detent, which is around here, and turn off the head tracking. So this is maximum power, but we don't use it because it's very heavy load on the engines. At full thrust they can produce up to 25,000 horsepower. So we will go for flex detent, which is enough on a long runway like here in Paris. And when we have maybe on 3,000 feet, you can see it here, or you can see it on your PFD when we are on 3,000 feet. We will go back to the climb detemp and then auto throttle and autopilot on, so it will automatically not exceed any speed limit, because under 10,000 feet in 99% of all aerospaces you have to stay beneath or under 250 knots, and just above Bravo airspace, so above 10,000 feet or flight level 100 as it's called, you can go for more than 250 knots. You can set this here, but you don't have to worry about speed because we have our MCUD with all the, if you go to the performance page again, if you go to the next phase, you will see on climb we're going for a managed speed of 167, and keep this, and if you want to go a little bit quicker we can do, but no need to. It's calculating all the best for us and most efficient ways, and on our cruise we will be at 193 knots, but more to that in a second. Okay, we have our clearance, score code, perfect. Okay, so let's start, and we go, as I told you, to the flex detent. And go. You can have a look at your turbines, so they're spooling up synchronically. Using your feet pedals to use the rudder and front nose wheel steering. Have a look at the speed. There's V1, we can't abort anymore in a second now. And now we are rotating to slowly to 10 degrees and then to 15 degrees. And we have taken off, positive climb, bring up the landing gear, bring up the flaps.
Ryanair 112 contact Paris Center on 125.7.
Just give it one more second. Maybe a bit too much climb.
125.7 for RYANAIR 112.
Still positive climb. We can have a look at the green line here.
Passing 2,000 feet, climbing 7,000
And we
feet.
can go for autopilot, and here go back to the climb. So the white braces at CL, which means climb.
Ryanair 112 climb and maintain flight level 190.
So we have assigned
Climb and maintain flight level 190 for RYANAIR 112.
so we will go for 9,000 feet and press the mouse wheel. And
Climb
oh
and
my
maintain
gosh,
flight
they
level
are so
270 RYNIR
quick on that.
1123.
Okay, flight level 270. Okay. And as you can see, we are now aiming for our waypoints. Autopilot is flying the plane now. Our throttle is on climb, you can check it here. We are in open climb mode, so the plane will reach the assigned altitude that we gave it and try to hold the speed that is either in managed or selected mode. We haven't touched anything on the speed mode, so we're still in the managed mode. And we will go for flight level 270, which means 27,000 feet. We are crossing transition altitude in a few seconds, so going for 10,000 feet. Above 10,000 feet we can not only go faster, but we can also bring our landing lights, turn them off and then retract them because they will disturb airflow a little bit. We can bring in the taxi lights, we can bring in the runway turn lights, but they are they are mounted on the wheel column, so no need to turn them off because they are in the body of the plane by now, since we retracted the landing gear. And there we are. It's quite warm weather, that's why I haven't activated anti-ice. You could do that if you're flying in winter setting. I haven't done that because it's pretty warm. Yeah, when you're flying through dense clouds, it's sometimes clever to activate them, or you will get icing. If you're flying by night, you can turn off the wing lights. They are this one. They will extend and yeah, make some light on the wings and the engines, and by night you can have a look at here and look if there's some icing. In real life A320 Neo you have some metal stick at this window here, and you can have a look at this if there's icing on this metal stick, and then you can think, yeah, okay, we will have ice on the engine and the wings. But yeah, just a game, so have a look at here, or just turn icing, anti-ice on when you're flying through dense clouds and it's very cold. We have no passengers on board, otherwise we could also have turned on seatbelts and no smoking signs. Yeah, we are too high for the terrain sensor, which would have shown us some hills and mountains if we're not used to the terrain and scared of hitting some mountain. So we can see our next waypoint is RBT. The plane is flying towards it by itself. It's in 18.8 nautical miles, and we will arrive there at 9:15 AM. We can go to our flight plan. You will see the next waypoint we are aiming for and the time, so 12 minutes after 9 o'clock. 40 minutes after 9 o'clock for RBT, which is the name of the next waypoint. And current time is shown here. Yeah. And if you want, you can have a look, tell your passengers we will arrive at Frankfurt, which is the destination, DDF. We will arrive there at 9 o'clock and 45 minutes. But this is always a little bit optimistic, I found. So I always add like at least 10 to 20 minutes to that, and you will have a realistic destination time. We can check in the ECAM. Our engines are looking good, exhaust gas temperature is looking good, which is good, fuel flow looks good. We have still over 10 tons of fuel on board. Our burned fuel is okay. A little bit more on the left tanks. This is because if you go to the fuel, our APU, the little asshole engine, is taking its fuel from the left tanks. That's why we have a little bit more consumption on the left side. We can go back to engine. Our oil quantity is maximum. It's good. Our oil pressure is good. Oil temperature is good. everything looks good. Outside temperature is 30 degrees negative, degrees Celsius. So quite cold already. We are just over 60 tons weight, and we're still flying our maneuver away from the airport, gaining altitude. When we cross the 10,000 mark, we usually already go to standard by pressing our barometric pull button and going to standard by pressing the mid click or mouse wheel. And you will go, we will see here now it says STD, which stands for standard. And you do this because the altimeter they gave us before we left and after we left, the 2992, which was here, I can do it again, you can see, 2992. This is the pressure on or at the airport area. But since we are away from the airport now, we go to standard barometric pressure. This will affect how we measure our height, our altitude. So we are not giving flight level 270 and are actually on flight level 260. And you can see engines are going down. I've turned on here the HUD for you guys. I'm usually playing without it, but now you can see our turbines are going up and down, holding the throttle, holding our assigned speed, and we are aiming for our selected flight level 270.
Climb and maintain flight level 390.
Okay, so we go for 390.
Climb and maintain flight level 390 RYNIR 1123.
Yeah, we can again change the scale here if you want to have a closer look. Our next waypoints. I still haven't touched the throttle yet since we put it in climb detent. You can see here throttle is in climb mode, we are in open climb mode, which means we will reach our flight level by still sticking to our assigned speed. So if the speed is higher, we will be there slower because we can go for a steeper angle, and the other way around. Okay, nothing to do here at the moment. And we're already starting to making some small contrails. We have a look, you can see. Since we forgot to fuel our chemicals to make some nice chemtrails for your tinfoil guys. Yeah, today we're just sticking to usual contrails. Yeah, by now I will shut up for a moment, and we've reached our climb cruise flight level 390. You can also see it just as we planned it. You can go to the init page and you can see here our cruise or aim for cruise level is 390, and up there we have negative 52 degrees Celsius. We are already at minus 48, you can see here. And there we will stay for quite some time and fly our path towards Frankfurt, and every few minutes have a look at all your instruments, constantly checking everything, and I will come back to you guys when we are descending, and now just shut up and go through the different camera angles.
112 tree, contact Paris Center on 118.05. Good day. 118.05 for RYANAIR 112 tree. Paris Center RYANAIR 112 tree is passing flight level tree 75 climbing flight level tree 90.
Ryanair 112 tree Paris Center. Continue to Utah as planned. Ryanair 112 tree contact Paris Center on 125.7. Good day.
125.7 for RYANAIR 112 tree. Paris Center RYANAIR 112 tree is passing flight level tree 85 climbing flight level tree 90. Ryanair 112 tree Paris Center, continue to Utah as planned.
So you can see the speed is not only shown in knots, but it's already shown in 0.786 Mach. So we are going at closely 78.5% of the speed of sound, and this is 0.78 Mach is like 950 kilometers per hour. If we want to set up a speed by ourselves, we can switch between knots and Mach by using this button, and we can choose one from here and press the center mouse button or mouse wheel, pressing that, and then it will go by the speed we've set, but we don't want to use that, so we stick to the engage managed speed mode. It's the one at the button we activate it or keep it activated by pressing again the right mouse button. So it will use the speed that it calculated for us in the performance page for cruise. Yeah?
Good day. 118.05 for RYANAIR 112 tree. Paris Center RYANAIR 112 tree flight level tree 90.
Ryanair 112 tree Paris Center. Continue to Utah as planned. Overspeed.
Okay, we're going for overspeed. So we will go a little bit slower and press mouse wheel button, and you can see we will go a little bit slower now. Yeah. This is because I forgot to go from climb detent to auto throttle detent, I believe, so we can still go back to the managed speed mode again, now that we figured out what went wrong. Yeah, 0.8 Mach, it's definitely too quick. We can go back down a little bit, but we can also, just to make sure, so we don't encounter any more problems, go by Mach, and we will go for 7.8 Mach, 0.78 Mach, which is our, for the A320 Neo, is the cruise speed we can use without problems. It's around 940, 960, 950, somewhere around that kilometers per hour. Quite fast enough, and you could hear all the gnarling on the body and body panels here. That's because we went just too fast. I haven't figured out what was the problem now. I haven't encountered that in the flights I did before. Maybe because I went back from climb to auto throttle too late, but I don't think so, because it already went into speed mode and not in throttle climb mode. Yeah, if somebody of you knows what I did wrong this time, let me know. And now I will go to mute myself again, and we will wait for our descending. You can hear the traffic controller telling us to continue to Utella. Utella is always, or the things they tell us here, is the name of the waypoints we're aiming for. So this one, Utella, is in 120.6 nautical miles distance. We will be there at 9:28, which is in, yeah, around about 3 minutes. And then if we go to the flight plan, we can see it here, Utella. And the white one, as I said before, is the one we are flying towards now. And when we are crossing Utella, we will go for Raynox, and so on and so on. And you can already see Raynox should have a flight level of 195. So after Utella, soon after, we will, I believe, start our descending from flight level 390 to 195. So we're aiming for 19,500 feet altitude and starting our descent somewhere around here, I believe. But you don't have to plan on your descending too much, because we've set up the route in the pre-session world map editor flight plan tool, and so the ATC will tell us when to descend and when to not descend and to what flight level we should go to. So don't worry about this.
Center on 126.475. Good day.
126.475 for RYNIR 112 Paris Center RYNIR 112 flight level 390.
Ryanair 112 Paris Center. Continue to MEDOX as planned.
So, I'm back again, and I think by the time ATC should give us maybe a little bit lower altitude, since we're coming close to our destination, but they don't do. That's why I'm asking for cruising altitude decrease. Never ever press request IFR clearance for an instrument flight plan, because this bitch from ATC will give you some weird altitude changes, going up and down and up and down. Just don't press it. And okay, just as we're talking, we're receiving our lower flight level. I've went back to the managed speed mode. You can see there's no speed input here. I'll just press the left and then the right mouse. And we are going down to flight level 310 in open descent mode, so we are holding our speed and taking off as much throttle as we can by still keeping our speed, and then descending to our assigned flight level. That's what open descent means. If we want to dive or descend a little bit faster, we can go for the selected speed mode again and choose a little bit higher speed, so we're descending faster. Or what we can do, we can give it some speed brakes, not full. This will cause way too much air brake and disturbance in the airflow, but we can go for a little bit if we want and we think we might not descend fast enough. But we will just have a look at it, and if we go to our MCDU, just go to some different and back to the performance page, and you can see we are now in the descent phase. We are aiming for a managed speed of 242 knots. Everything looks good. Only thing I'm worried about is by how close the airport already is and we're still so high. But ATC surely knows what to do, and
125.0 RYNAIR 112 Brussels Center RYNAIR 112 is passing flight level 350, descending flight level 310.
Yeah, but it looks good.
Ryanair 112 Brussels Center, continue as planned.
And if you think you're too high still, and you think you should be lower, you could, what I've shown you, ask for a lower cruising altitude, or if you are not descending fast enough, use your speed brakes just a little bit, maybe 20% or so. And we will, on our descent now, receive from the traffic controllers different flight levels, going down to 310. When we reach this, I think they will give us something like 270, then 190. Always odd numbers. There's a rule going to south or to east, I believe. You get odd numbers as a flight level, and going to the west or to the north, you get even numbers as flight levels. Some small turbulence, you can see engine spooling up, bouncing up and down a little bit. We can turn on our seatbelt sign so passengers don't hurt themselves when we get to heavy turbulence. There we go, very close.
And maintain flight level 250.
Okay, so as I was telling you,
maintain flight level 250
we get the odd numbers since we're flying to the east. So even when our TCAS system doesn't detect another plane or air traffic controllers fuck up, we're still safe, at least when we hold that altitude or flight level. While climbing or descending, of course, we are crossing the even numbers as flight levels, but when we are there and holding them, we are safe, since we are all on the same standard barometric pressure to determine our altitude. We all have the same reference for our altitude, and when we are flying on the odd numbers and the guys going to the west or to the north get even numbers, we can't collide. Yeah, we're coming pretty close now. We're crossing Limgo, and now our next waypoint is already Frankfurt. It's in 90 nautical miles. still aiming for flight level 250. And what I will do now is descending a little bit faster, so going to speed brakes and maybe give it 10% to not make it too rough. And you can see our speed brakes are barely coming up, just a small amount.
Ryanair 112 contact center on 127.6.
And receiving the radio frequencies. If you do manually,
127.6 for RYNAIR
now type in our 127.6
Center
here, and then
RYNAIR
those frequencies
1123
swap.
is passing flight level 260, descending flight level
And
250.
we're coming to our assigned flight level, so we
Ryanair 112 Center,
bring
continue
in
as
the
planned.
speed brakes. Everything looks good. Still pretty high. And there we are.
Ryanair 112 tree descend and maintain 17,000 feet.
Okay.
Descend and maintain 17,000 feet Ryanair 112
Turning the altitude knob and pressing mouse wheel while keeping the left mouse button hold. And down we go. And we're 75 miles away from our destination. And we can use that time going down there, already talking about the approach and landing. For this landing I will use the selected speed mode, so I will not take the one that the autopilot or board computer calculated for us. If you go here for approach, you can see our landing speed it's aiming for is 145, but sometimes it's not able to maintain that speed or to go down to that speed because we are still losing height or still need to lose height, and that's why it's going faster than that. So I will aim for 145 manually, so I will type that in here at our speed knob, and we can also see, again, go to your performance page where we can see all the phases, go to the next phase, and we can see our landing configuration. It's calculated for us is configuration 3. So we use our flaps in position 3. We will go by 1, then 2, then 3. Every few miles we are coming towards our destination. Still coming down, and we can then talk about our speed brake. When it's rainy or snowing or very short runway, we will use medium. We will never use max. Maximum auto brake is only used on takeoff when you abort your takeoff. For landing we only use medium or low Maybe if it's an emergency we will use maximum, but in the manual for this real airplane it says just medium for short, rainy, wet runways, or low for normal runways. When we are crossing 10,000 feet, we will wait for ATC to tell us the QNH, so the pressure we have at the airport area. Then we will change from standard to the QNH they gave us. It's the altimeter they give us, and they will give us a runway which we are clear to land on. We will type this into our flight plane, just as we did with the leaving from our airport. We will go to flight plan and then destination, and then we will type in an arrival for a runway we are assigned to land on, but at the moment we don't have that already, so we don't have that yet, so we will wait for this. Only 15 degrees negative.
Ryanair 112 descend and maintain 9,000 feet.
9,000 feet, okay.
Descend and maintain
Doing
9,000
this,
feet, Ryanair
checking flight level
1123.
90, totally fine. 55 miles away from our destination, coming down. So in a few seconds we will, a few minutes, we will come through our transition level, which is the BSAT 1,000 feet at 10,000 feet mark, and we will then extend our landing lights and turn them on. We will turn on our taxi lights and runway turn lights as soon as we extended our landing gear. To extend our landing gear, we should check our speed. So VLO, this means you shouldn't extend your landing gear above 250 knots, and you should have it retracted by reaching 220 knots. Not only because of the landing gear, but because of the door flaps which hide the landing gear behind them, so they don't get torn apart. And we have some speeds we should consider before bringing out the flaps. So for each flap configuration we have a maximum speed, and since we are going to land, as I said, with around 140, 145 knots, we're totally fine with our landing configuration with setting 3 on the flaps. We can already turn on our terrain systems. They are hidden somewhere under the plane and will show us if there are some mountains, so we don't collide with them. I think around Frankfurt it's pretty okay to. We don't have to really check it because there are not so high mountains around here. But when you're flying in the night or with poor visibility in, I don't know, South America or Asia, you should also turn this on, and as soon as we reach a certain altitude it can scan the ground and the terrain, and you can see if there are some high mountains in front of you, so you don't crash into them. We can turn up the scale a little bit. Okay, and we see something. We're landing with ILS runway 25C. Okay. So we go to our flight plan, destination,
Maintain present
arrival,
heading and altitude. Expect
25C.
ILS runway 25
So
center
again,
approach.
arrow
Via Mike
up.
Tango Romeo transition.
There
Clear
it
to
is,
Mike Tango
ILS
Romeo Ryanair
25C.
1123.
And our approach transition is via MTR. So we go approach, it's up here, and we want via MTR. So you have it in yellow text up here, and now we can insert, and now we have EDF25C, and you can see we are flying our approach now, and we are crossing the 10,000 feet mark. So we can turn on the landing lights, we are crossing some clouds, so just for the sake of demonstration we can turn on engine eyes and wing airframe anti-ice. But it's not that cold outside. We can have a look here. It's around freezing point of water, so it shouldn't be a problem. We have entered our approach and transition, you can see, and it's put into the navigation display here. You could either look here or you can look at your VFR map, because in real life you would have printed cards for the airport you have your arrival on, and you have printed maneuvers like, or transitions like MTR transition you would have on a printed card or on a tablet computer. So it's not unrealistic to have a look at your VFR map.
Ryanair 112 tree contact approach on 119.0 tree.
Okay.
Good day.
Still on our 9,000 feet mark.
119.0 tree RYANAIR 112 tree. Approach RYANAIR 112 tree 9,000 feet.
Approach is good.
Ryanair 112 tree approach altimeter.
We have our altimeter.
Okay. To continue to Mike Tango Romeo as planned.
Okay. Flight plan. Have a look again. Looks good. Looks good. And we can turn on our QNH again by pressing the right mouse while holding the left mouse button and go to 29.90 barometric pressure. Our backup instrument, maybe again we can go here for 29.92. Everything looks good so far. Arrival looks good as well. 25C. Let's have a quick look at it again. Yeah. But we already have this. Just double checking. And we will wait for the approach phase, or we can skip with this button and type in the altimeter we have. We have a QNH of we don't need to press this, sorry, 29.92. We can put this here. We have a temperature of, in Frankfurt they didn't tell us, but we could contact the ATIS, so the weather information. I think it's around 19 degrees Celsius. And have we got our wind information already? No, doesn't look like it. You could, if you don't like the approach, the MTR approach, you could go for another approach or another runway if you don't like the 25C runway. Especially for ILS, this MTR approach is not optimal because we are not aiming for the runway with our localizer for very long, because we're just making a turn and then straight flying towards our runway. So it's not that easy to catch the localizer and the glide scope, but I will show you it's possible. Usually you first catch your localizer, I will show you. You turn the ILS on, you will get those dots, and we can already catch a signal from the localizer, which is the bottom part, the horizontal part. We are aiming, at the moment the localizer is to our left, and this would go into a diamond symbol form and come over here, and when it's centered with the yellow line, we are perfectly centered, aiming for the runway. And then we would sooner or later catch the glide scope, which is a signal that tells the airplane systems, aircraft systems, to how much descent we need. So we are not overflying the runway and not crashing in the ground 10 kilometers before the runway. So we are just hitting ground on the perfect run on the runway. So this will come down here. before we catch the localizer, because we are not aligned with the localizer. So first we will catch the glide scope, I think, when we fly MTR approach because of this turn, and then we will catch the localizer. We will put out the wings when we're a few miles before our landing, and when we have flaps out, landing gear out, we will catch the glide scope and press approach mode, or when the glide scope is showing up here, so we know it's near. You shouldn't turn this on too early, because not that you catch some other glide scope, you want to catch the glide scope for your assigned runway. So we press approach mode when we see the pink diamond symbol coming down, and then we will fly with our selected speed of 145 towards our runway. And when we're like, I don't know, maybe 600, 500 feet height, the plane will tell us, it will make calls like 600, 500, then we will disengage our autopilot. We will stick to auto throttle to keep the assigned 100 or the selected 145 knots of speed, and so it will automatically reduce throttle and catch the glide scope and descend towards the runway, and we only have to you know, move the ailerons to steer right and left, so we stick in the middle of the runway. And when we're like 50 or 40 feet above the runway, I will let go of the throttle.
Ryanair 112 descend and maintain 5,000 feet.
Okay.
Descend and maintain 5,000 feet, Ryanair 112.
Okay, perfect. And yeah, I will disengage autopilot. When we're a few feet above the runway, I will take away the throttle to idle, and I will flare a little bit, so pull up the nose a little bit just to make it softer. We will try to hear the call out 5. When you hear that, that means you're coming so slow that it has time, because it's going in 10 steps. So 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, and next one would be 0, but if you do it right and you will have a smooth landing, you will hear the 5. So it will go to the last step into 5ers. And we will aim our auto brake. And yeah, this will bring up the speed brakes, so we have to arm them again so the board computer can take control of it. We'll use low air brake. When we touched ground and I've gone to idle, I will engage reverse thrust. Reverse thrust, those are those little things. I've assigned it to my joystick, to a button. Toggle reverse thrust is the name if you want to search it. Yeah, you have to be in idle position, then press the button, and then give it a little bit thrust on your joystick again. So it won't go forward, but it will go backwards to reverse thrust. And then we will slow down. At 70 knots, I will go down on the throttle and pull back to idle from reverse thrust and just brake manually, and then we will roll out on the taxiway. So, yeah, as you can see, we don't have much clouds that we are going through, so we can deactivate the anti-icing. Landing lights on. We can now bring down our flaps to position 1. We can go to selected speed of maybe 188. Sorry. And you can see we are catching the glide scope. That's when we can go to approach. And now it will try to catch this. We're flying under it. We'll make the turn and we will catch it again. So we are just very few miles away from our airport, but we're flying the curve, so just wait. You can see the VFR map is a little bit off. On our navigation display, it's totally fine. Since we're in approach mode, we can keep the selected altitude for 5000. So if we miss our approach and have to start through, we can quickly, don't have to select anything here, we can quickly go back to our selected height. And again, you will see the glide scope signal coming down here. But we are already in approach mode, so the signal should be caught by our systems. We are flying through our last waypoint. MTR is only 2 miles in front of us. Seatbelt sign is on. We could have kept a higher speed and kept our flaps in a little bit longer. But don't go too fast. You don't need to go for the speed limit of 215 knots just because you can. So go a little bit slower so you have time to set up everything, all your waypoints, and prepare the plane for your landing. And we're going to catch our glide scope again. You can see localizer mode and glide scope mode is waiting for us. It's armed and ready. And to make sure it really works, the localizer mode should come to the top, turn green, and we should see our plane descending and not sticking to the selected altitude of 5000 feet.
16 miles northeast of Frankfurt. Contact Frankfurt Tower on 119.905 when inbound on the approach. Tower on 119.905 RYNIR 1123. Frankfurt Tower RYNIR 1123 16 miles northeast inbound ILS runway 25 center approach.
Ryanair 112 Frankfurt Tower. Altimeter 29.9er 21267 at 12. Cleared
So,
ILS runway
sure.
25 center approach.
Cleared ILS runway 25 center approach RYNIR 1123.
And you can see, just to make sure, I've deactivated and activated approach mode. And you can see we are descending, we're not holding our 5,000 feet, and we're coming straight towards our runway. And you can see now the localizer is moving towards our yellow center line. We are on the correct ILS, you can see runway 25C. That's how you not catch a wrong signal, by typing it in to your approach. Okay, we can go down further. 170 knots. Bring our flaps to setting 2. And we can already bring out our landing gear. Have a look at those buttons here. There should be green rectangles by now. Okay, all the landing gear is out. You can see. So we again arm our auto brake. Make sure our speed brakes are armed. Are they armed? Yep. Landing gear on, taxi light to take off. Runway turn lights on, so we don't have that when we landed. Okay, no terrain inside. And you can see we are in Gyroscope mode and localizer mode, both, as I said, turned green. And we are 8 miles away from our runway, it says here. Coming through some clouds, visibility is not so good.
2,500.
2,500, and you will see green numbers turn up here. This is the altitude which is not determined by pressure, but this is radar altitude, so the plane has some sensors and systems down here. They will scan for the ground, and this is much more precise. So we are centered on the runway, perfect glide scope. We can go down to a speed of maybe go not too slow, it's easier. And flaps on 3. Everything looks good. Remember, soon before we will come to our runway, we will disengage autopilot at like 600 or 500 feet, and at around 550 or 40 feet we will turn down the throttle to idle. We haven't touched this one since we arrived our cruise, and we'll touch it now in a few seconds for the first time. So we have clearance for our landing. Sorry, my Headtracker is doesn't like it when I drink. And you can see there's the skyline of Frankfurt somewhere around here. No, it should be maybe there. And we're coming to our runway. 125 right. So 1000, I'm not touching anything. will turn off the Headtracker so it's more stable. We are still within the glide scope. Send it to the runway. The puppy lights show to white to red. That's good. That's precision approach path indicators. So it's a bit windy, so I will wait till we're 900. A little bit too high. 3 white lights on the red. A little bit too high. Okay, we will.
400.
Now disengage the autopilot.
$300.
Not touching
200.
anything. Maybe a little bit to the right.
100. 60, 50, 40,
Come
30,
up.
20. Retard. Drive.
And I'm going to activate reverse thrust. You can see. And deactivating the reverse thrust.
Ryanair 112 turn next taxiway.
So, and we're turning next taxiway. Pressing the manual brakes one time, so it stops the auto brake.
Ryanair 112
From braking.
contact ground on 121.805.
And away we go. And that's it, guys.
121
That's how you fly and land with an ILS approach. Yeah, I hope you liked it, and maybe next time we are going to talk about a non-precision approach with VOR, DME. But if you choose a big airport with ILS runways, it's I think it's the easiest way. As you saw, I haven't touched anything. I've just pressed buttons, not touched the yoke or the throttle. It's very easy, and you're perfectly centered with the runway, even if it's stormy or it's night or it's very, foggy. You can't see shit. You are still perfectly centered and will see the runway lights when you're close to it, and then just disengage the autopilot and smoothly land this bitch. See you next time.